order of business, let me confess that what you have as an agenda is not the final one. I didn't print it and forgot to bring it. So this is an earlier version that has some edits in and some edits remaining. For example, cleanup day is missing from this agenda.
Okay.
And I'm not sure where I put it. I think I put it under other business. Is that okay?
Sure.
And you have the minutes from the 17th for us to review. Is that right, March 17th?
Yeah, I have a couple copies.
I read them once before. These
Okay, and they just
incorporate
have
the changes.
Susan's comments.
And, well, I guess it's only us that are voting, the three of us.
Yeah.
Voting rules for read.
Is Karen coming?
No,
Oh,
Susan.
okay.
Susan is sitting.
In which case I should have those things.
Okay.
Maybe this.
Thank you.
Okay. Wow, Lynn Paul. It feels like a long time ago, doesn't it?
April 14th.
Yeah, today, April 14th. No photo here, that's too bad. Sorry about that. Okay. Susan, have you had a chance to look at the minutes? Are there any adjustments, corrections, or revisions to the minutes? I have none. Do you have any, Susan?
Nope.
Then I'm going to move that we accept as presented the minutes of March 17th. So I moved,
I second.
Susan seconds. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. It's a unanimous vote.
A universal vote.
Universal. Yeah, by acclamation. Can you reread that? That's a phrase I haven't used in a while. Okay, so now a little discussion on gross-based budgeting. A major part of gross-based budgeting is how the numbers are handled, how gross basis is treated or handled here in the town of Grafton. I'm not gonna get into that, I've been into it. The same people that gave me advice are now the ones coming to talk to the select board, the budget committee, and the trustees. My main interest there is gonna see, are they consistent with what they told myself and Pamela, or are they gonna have a different story? But that's who's coming. In the meantime, we did discover the memorandum of understanding from 2015 that divided the costs between the town and the library. And I thought it needed updating, and so I've begun, and I think Leaf has agreed with me, and so we have done a draft And I'm gonna hand that out because we need to have a little discussion about what some of the terms mean.
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No, I already got one. Thank you.
Okay. So there's nice language at the top. At the moment, I don't want us to worry too much about that, but that could be made nicer, in my opinion. And then I tried to organize it so it said, what's the town responsible for, then followed by what's the library responsible for. And then my favorite is the signature block. I'm very proud of being able to do that. Anyway, so Leaf, Susan, and myself met yesterday, and we did look at this, and we've come away with, I'm going to call it questions or items to be defined. So most of what's here is the same as the old agreement, with a few changes. But if you look at number 3, it says the town will provide funds for operational utilities including, and they're all the same as the last time, except when it said septic, I've typed in porta potty, it was written in before. And then we had a discussion about that closet right there. What's that called?
I don't know what I mean,
Does it have a name?
no.
Why do we have it? Is it
The
used?
doom room.
Is it used?
No, not, no.
No. So if that's the case, why do we have it? And why are we
Maybe rid of it.
buying supplies for it? I mean, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just to appease the state.
I think
Well,
so.
we did have a handicapped employee, and I think,
Well, I think even
It's a public
without,
building,
it's
you
a,
need a
it's a
bathroom.
Department of Labor requirement for staff, handicapped or no.
oh,
that there
That's
be
right, you said that.
facilities. I
Well, I
believe
don't
so,
know.
I could be wrong.
It's a public building, you need a bathroom of some sort.
right up there. I
But
mean, that's
before,
my attitude.
before you guys had that, you had the closet from hell.
I think we've had the porta potty. Well, I think it was just because it was because of Amy that we had to provide an accessible bathroom, and so then we've had 2 bathrooms for a while.
So that came because of a handicapped staff person,
Correct.
not because of any staff. I mean, the question is, do you know?
Well,
Okay,
the
who
other
do we call?
question,
I don't know when the porta potty first
the
came
other
into
question
being.
I would have, to make it more complicated, is, what accessibility laws are we required to comply with? Because, I'm not sure the porta potty is accessible.
Well, I mean, nor is that 36 inches
No, because
wide.
you
so.
can't turn in it,
Yeah.
right, so that's a moot point.
In my limited experience, in a building, an old building, this is now, I'm dated, and this is 10 years ago or more, 15 years ago. The ruling I got was, you're expected to make reasonable accommodations. It doesn't mean you have to tear the building down to make it accessible. So this is a reasonable accommodation, we could put
Right.
a ramp up,
Correct.
right? That's the best we could do without major rehabbing. So I believe that's probably still,
Thanks for that
the rule.
clarification.
that's what it was then.
So your question is, given our current circumstances, do we want to maintain that cassette toilet?
Right. Do we need storage? What do we, I mean, we're always talking about not having enough room. That's not really a room, but
Well,
it's space
there is storage up above that we still utilize.
that you're using anyway.
Yeah,
How would you use it otherwise? Any more storage?
no,
No,
No.
I think the main, point is the potential for, eliminating an expense.
Well, that was that's where I was going. Trying to eliminate a needless expense unless we have to do it. Okay, so that's one. That's a question. Should we eliminate that and use the space somehow else? Then the second thing, I just struggle with this. Susan tries to help me. She knows I need help. And then I moved to what I called software, then we called it services, then we call it literature. Is that the best term, literature?
Well, I'll just state how I look at it.
Yeah.
Overdrive, which is the state consortium that allows people to download books freely, is just another way of delivering media. One way is books on
Oh, okay.
shelves. Another way is overdrive. So to me, just because it's electronic doesn't mean it isn't literature. That we're
Okay.
circulating, just
Okay.
in a different way. Does that,
And it
is that,
gets very good circulation too.
yeah, so to me, it begs the question of where does media or literature, whichever word you want to use, reside in our budget? Is it, is it something that within the constraints of the approved budget that belongs to the town? Is it a fundamental operating expense? Or is it one of these things that belongs outside what's funded by tax-based revenue?
So.
That's my question,
That's a basic question, and that's what we have to decide.
not what to call overdrive, it's just literature,
Yeah,
delivered a different
whatever.
way.
I've struggled with this from the start, so,
Yeah.
but thank you for saying that. Now, in my mind, it goes something like this. To maintain the library services as they exist today, that's an essential tool. Just like books on the shelves are essential tools to do our job. Now, if we take that away, and the budget gets tight, and we have to eliminate it, that takes away 50% of the business here. And that to me is,
That aspect of it,
well, I'm sorry,
yeah.
that's the way I think. So, I'm thinking down the road, what happens? And it's not a trivial expense.
So,
Leave.
I have thought about this, and there's no way I'm saying that overdrive and all that stuff is not needed by this library. But it is not a necessary, operating just part for the library that town should take part in paying for. It's not like heat, electricity, that you need to operate this.
Right, it's like a library service versus a town building.
It's a subscription,
Service.
it's not, it's a subscription. It's like,
Okay.
Caitlin, you have Amazon, right?
Yeah.
It's like trying to get the town to pay for your Amazon account.
Okay.
You don't really need it to operate. It's nice, it helps
It's a
a lot.
convenience.
It's a convenience. So don't take it wrong, I do think it's great for the for the library to have.
Well,
At some level, it becomes a matter of affordability.
Yeah,
Just to
I
be
mean,
blunt,
it's
it
all,
becomes affordability.
it's all a matter of what.
So if we get
what the
squeezed to
budget's
the
gonna
point where
cover.
we can't pay for it, then it's squeezed to a point where a lot of things come into question in my mind.
Well, and I mean, then we also would be in the discussion too of like, our Tiny Cat, which is our,
Yeah.
web-based catalog. Technically, a library could run, using a card catalog,
Yeah.
but given our limited hours, like, this is quick and easy and it's $300 a year. I mean, are we gonna get to the point where we're trying to save $300 a year? Because,
Well,
I don't know.
your point is valid, right? You can go
Yeah.
backwards and do it like we did, 25 years ago. It's all card catalogs and cards in the back of books and all that stuff. We could do that, but to me, the labor goes up. Maybe that's what you're saying.
And even
'Cause
then,
that's a labor-intensive process.
yeah, and an ebook is a book just as a book in our shelves.
That's what the point I was trying to make.
And I don't know.
Sorry, because I'm taking the minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
Not
that.
always paying, so
Yeah.
are we discussing the and necessary services part
Yes.
of number 3? Okay,
Yes.
alright.
And you see, I crossed off, did I cross it off?
This
Yeah.
is your handwriting, the
Yes.
services?
Yeah,
or-
and then I have another version, unfortunately, that I don't have with me. Susan added things like, we call it literature, which is now what we're actually doing, right? It's like a book on the shelf, only it's electronic. So the question posed is this a required infrastructure, operational requirement for the library to function. I mean, we've heard one opinion, and yesterday I had the opinion, well, we don't need electricity, we could meet only in the daytime. We don't need lights. I mean, you could really, go backwards enough to, why do you need a phone? We all have cell phones.
Right.
I mean, you could keep going backwards on this, but it's either important to maintain the activity here, or it's not. I have a hard time thinking both of those those processes are less than key. To me, no different than having a roof.
I agree.
Sue Smith has to do work on a computer. You take that software away, she could do it by hand. I did it all by hand at one time, so it could be done. But in the modern era, that isn't how it's gonna work. She won't be able to work, wouldn't work, and no one would take the job. What about here? How's this different? I'm hung up on that. And I don't see how we operate at this level without it. You have to speak, Kate. I mean, this is only my impression.
I mean, to me, I feel like what's the point of a library without continuing to add new media to our shelves? I feel like that is a necessary cost of a library itself, is at least allowing some sort of continuing additions. And like I said, it's an ebook, and it gets utilized by our residents.
The more you talk about this, and the more it's like a book on the shelf. I wonder, can we define? We have 5 trust accounts. 3 of them are dedicated. 5 of them are dedicated to books. Can't we call these things books? Where's the difference? I mean, I'm not sure. Then we would have a source of funds. Mind you, it's not very much, but it's something that we could offer to help support it. And we don't have to decide this right now. This is a work in process.
Yes, and what keeps coming to mind is there are 2 issues. What is considered an essential service? And what is the total budget that's authorized through the appropriation process? So you could say that, if the total budget is X and it doesn't support 4 3-hour shifts a week and doesn't support more than a little bit of extra whatever, then we have to live within that. So there are 2 questions. What's essential and what is the total budget you have to live within? You see what I'm saying? Because all of those things involve decisions, not givens. So if we could deem, and we could make the argument to the select board, to the budget committee, that some access to electronic delivery of books and some new media are essential. But our total budget could be such that we have to trim something else in order to be able to do it. So there's what we call essential, and then there's living within a budget, whatever that.
So
That
let's
would be.
start at to me the beginning is what's the definition?
Mhm.
And then then how do you operate? Right. This is not putting numbers on anything. These
No.
are only items. And then yes, you have to live within a budget. And that's true.
And then there are always trade-offs. It could be,
Right,
well,
and
we
that's
just
always
think it's
true.
essential to have overdrive. Maybe we've gotta cut back 1 hour a week of operation in order to be able to do that.
Correct.
That's all I'm saying, it's two questions, what's essential and what's your total budget?
We
have to
can't
live with
answer the total budget.
No,
That's variable.
right,
Every year is a different thing.
that's all, I don't have any more.
Well,
than
it's a
that.
good,
It's
thank you
just-
for bringing it up, it's true. But that doesn't help us with this document.
Well, the document is a conversation, parties, if it's an MOU,
Mhm.
I think our decision would be, is refreshing media at some level and offering access to free downloadable books essential to library operation?
And-
Is that
and-
our opinion as trustees?
So my opinion is, yes, it's 50% of the business. If we cut that out, the business is cut in half. Then it becomes very easy. Then why are you open 12 hours a week? Everything's cut in half. Am I right or wrong? Maybe I'm overreacting to it. What do you think, Andrew?
Is the bigger picture here that if we, that when it comes to, having signed this MOU, and our budget is not, it's cut again like last time,
Mhm.
that we have something to say, listen, the town's responsibility as outlined in this MOU is to provide funding for utilities and these necessary services, and they're not meeting that.
Well, that would be where I'd come from.
Yeah, okay, that's,
Yeah, I thought that's what you were saying.
I mean, that is where I come from. I mean, the law says the town should support the operating costs of the library. So I wanna say that's an essential operating cost. Unless we wanna scale back what we do here. We don't wanna do that. The budget process could force it,
That's right.
and then we have to live with whatever that is. It seems to me. Shall we just table this for right now? Let's think about it.
yeah, I'm just
We're
trying
not
to
under
think
a timeline.
of like parallels in other town departments, right, where, the town is paying for utilities and whatnot at, the highway shed, and also the operations of the highway department,
Right.
right?
And they
Oh.
collect fees.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not the highway department.
Well, yeah, or the
But some of them
cemetery,
do.
or, other, like cemetery trustees, right, so they're also collecting fees, but the town is, right now I can't imagine perpetual care funds are really paying for the entire operation of cemetery, operations.
Well, they get an operating budget. Don't they spend any of it? I mean, I heard we didn't spend it, we don't get it. If they don't spend it, they get it anyway? I mean, that's how it sounds to me. But you can make the same statement, right? There's an ambulance service that gets a budget, can operate its service, and it collects fees. By the way, it's $141,000 at the moment, sitting in their little account. So yeah, we
Yeah, but the ambulance also has to rebox the truck.
yeah, okay. Their capital reserves, there's all kinds of things. So, maybe we should just table this. Let's just think a little bit about it. Maybe we could find out, do you have time to find out about the law requiring? The question is, do we have to have an internal, am I saying it right, an inside bathroom facility for staff?
Yep.
Did I say it right?
That's what we need to,
Yeah, we need to, that's right
Find
though,
out.
right, that's the question.
Yep.
Do you have time?
We must have that Department of Labor, thing somewhere.
Director.
the
Just
report,
ask Susie will pretty much.
I wonder if I may have it, hold on.
Has anyone been in Danbury's library?
Yes.
They have an incinerating toilet.
Do they?
Yep.
It's the same building.
yes,
This is
there's
not the
another
same
one too,
person.
I can't remember whether there's another one, it's just,
Okay, so we're gonna question the bathroom, and we're gonna continue to think about whether or not we want to define, from our point of view, these processes as essential operating or utilities, operational utilities. Did I say that correctly? Am I making sense? I'm not sure I'm even making sense.
well, I think the difference of opinion is, you're focused on the, on overdrive. What I'm focused on is access to literature in general, whether it's print or electronic, is the ability, even in a limited way, to refresh our collection, and overdrive becomes part of our collection, or not.
Well,
That's the philosophical
this year,
question.
it's all on the library. We provide all
Right.
the books, we provide all
Right,
of
so
this
that's,
stuff,
but
which is not
right,
sustainable.
right,
shall we just, we're gonna table this then, I don't wanna spend all night on this. So let's move that along, and we're gonna, Andrew, I need to make that note on our agenda. We're gonna revisit the MOU. With the select board at the, May meeting.
Global meeting, what time is that?
12:30, the first Saturday.
Okay, the next one is the governance of the library lot. And I raised that question, given what the deed says. And Tom McGinty, oh boy, I know I've got copies. And Tom McGinty showed me some stuff that at least helped me understand how the current, why the current situation is. Do you want this? You
No, I
have
got
that,
one.
right? Do you have this? There's one
Yes,
for you. Is, I believe this is from the town's attorney, at that date, looking at the various, petitioned warrant articles. And this big paragraph, and in the middle are the, to me, the salient words that in brief say that the rules, the deed doesn't apply because the rules require a building to be on the lot. When there's a building on the lot, then the trustees have that governance just like we do here. But until there's a building there, it reverts to the select board. But that, at least that made sense to me. Any discussion about that? Anybody wanna say something about it?
I just think having clarity is what we need.
It
And then we move
cleared it up for me. Whether I like it or not, it's a different story, but it seems to be the way it is.
George, this is your letter to Sue?
No.
Sorry, I missed.
This is, I believe, the town's attorney,
Town's attorney, okay.
responding to Sue on petitioned warrant articles. And this comment, and this whole paragraph has to do with, governance of that lot. And you might remember, I found the deed says the trustees have all that control. So I couldn't understand how we ended up with the letter from the attorney that we ended up with. Now I do. So it answered for me a major question. We don't have to come to any conclusion, I'm just giving you now an update. And if either of you, any of you want to pursue a discussion on this, we can do that at another meeting. I'm sorry, I'm trying to hurry us up, because we're gonna have, I think, could have a lengthy discussion coming up.
This is 2020. This letter's from 2020.
Yeah. And there were, he gave several, I have several, pieces of paper from him. But that, here it is. This to me was the main thing. Okay? So what that means is that we're gonna continue with an approval process that we've been using. Unfortunately, we don't have Fogel here. I've spoken with Leaf. We don't know unless you talked to other members.
I haven't talked to anyone from Paul.
What we talked about was an email process. We could send an email to the select board, including Sue Smith. This is what we're planning to do on the lot, blah, 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 blah. We've given permission or approved or whatever, these things. And we have a lot of standard things. What I'm worried about is this townwide yard sale. Do we have a date?
May, yeah,
28.
they just posted it on Facebook.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
28.
yeah.
Oh, 28, okay, so that's not, even still, 28, that's gonna come quickly. And we need to get a request to approve that activity to the select board. What we talked about was one message, all the main things that Fogel
All
does.
the recurring ones.
Just do it once, send it in, presumably it gets approved. Then there'll be, who knows what, individual things will come up. Do we agree with that? I mean, I do. Do you agree with that approach?
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to.
I know, it's,
Catch them,
Yeah.
you mean you can't type, listen, and all of that
I think.
simultaneously? Gosh, you're young too.
I can't do this, so.
Oh, I hate it. I do hate it. Okay, maybe I should contact Elena, get the information that we're looking for, compose an email message, send it on behalf of the trustees. I'm assuming we all approve for the we approve of the recurring activities. Anybody disapprove? Well, we only, Susan, you don't disapprove of any of those activities, do you? So I can say that we, maybe, do we have to record a vote? Probably. Alright, so I move that we send a letter, covering all the recurring uses of the library lot for 2022 to the select board for approval.
Second.
And Susan seconds. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Do I hear a third aye? Is it universal? You vote for that, Bess. So it's a unanimous vote. Okay. This is like a segue to me into a review of, let's back up a minute. You might remember in our strategic plan, implementation plan, we're at the time when we were going to start doing facility evaluation. And so Susan has prepared, pardon me,
May I make a suggestion?
please.
Just because this is a conversation that will almost certainly extend over a few meetings, why don't we put that after all of the immediate business? So as
So
not
I
to,
still didn't put it in.
so as not to run too long tonight.
Okay,
And I can make it fit whatever attention span we have left, and we can continue.
well, we're gonna
next
save
week.
some space because there's no Fogel.
Well, I did wanna give a little bit of update just to clarify what's happening
With Fogel?
with sign, with the sign.
Oh, okay, good. Then we do have something. Then I'm gonna put it at the end, right?
Yeah, other business.
Okay, sorry. So Susan will,
I just thought if we get to talking and put off the regular reports,
yeah, we should
it'd be
move
better
it,
to just
move
move it
through
to
it.
the end, yeah.
So, library director, are you ready?
Alright, so in
Okay.
March, we
Yeah.
had, 115 adult patron visits and 17 youth. 2 new patrons, and this is like 2 new library cards, more or less. 8 attended book club, 12 attended fiber arts club,
Ooh, good.
7 attended our, first astronomy club. There were 81 overdrive checkouts.
What do you need?
31 items borrowed through the interlibrary lending.
Yeah.
185 items borrowed from our collection
Wow.
on the shelves. And 29 of those were going out to patrons from other libraries. We had media donations of 70 books, 3 DVDs, and 2 puzzles. So, and then now that Lynn is pretty well completely trained, we're going to go back to using our training hours to do various free online trainings just to stay up to date and help us come up with programming and ideas to work with in the space, etc.
Good.
Deb donated a larger trash bin. Sharon Duffy donated more of the
Oh,
much nicer book easel stand things. So, just some notes about programming. Fiber Arts Club and Book Club both have really good attendance, and we continue to get good feedback. Our Walk-in Grafton Children's Program is next Tuesday at 1 p.m. We're meeting at 388 Millbrook Road. Upcoming in May, we have an astronomy club meeting on the 7th at 7:30 p.m. at the Snack Shack / rec field, and an additional gathering to observe the eclipse on the 15th. Fogel is sponsoring a presentation about cemeteries and gravestones, and that'll be May 14th at 1 p.m. at the East Grafton Church, and their barbecue will take place on the 28th. So,
Central sponsoring presentation. Is this the humanities?
New Hampshire Humanities Council, so let's see, the little survey sheet that I put up just to get some feedback about how people are hearing about our programs, suggests that it's mostly Facebook and word of mouth, pretty much.
Facebook, okay,
Yep.
Facebook. Is that what you put on Facebook?
Yeah,
Isn't that the same thing that goes on the town website?
yes,
So there's same data, two places.
yeah.
So this just is sort of a little feedback that tells us people aren't used to the town website, they don't know what's there maybe.
Well, last month there were a few people that said that they heard about events through email, but generally it's not as much as Facebook and word of mouth.
Yeah, interesting.
Let's see. So this is just a note about possibly organizing a volunteer spring cleaning, but now that we have this memorandum of understanding here with the town, I feel like we probably shouldn't have volunteers sweeping the walkways and cleaning up the mounds of dirt out there, because that seems like lawn care.
I would think that if we want it done, I mean,
Yeah.
the town's like,
Okay.
we do it, and if we want it done a certain way, that's.
Yeah, we should just do it.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
actually went over this in the last town meeting, where, we're taking, bids for doing the, ground care, and one was getting the sand off the property. That was
For
gonna
all
be-
town properties.
For all town properties,
That'd be great.
that was gonna be
Yeah.
part of the deal.
So should we plan our workday after, do you have a rough idea of when that might happen?
The next, I think, what day is it? I think it's, oh my gosh.
Actually, while you look for that, Leaf, Kate, where is 388 Millbrook Road? Is that just a section of,
Yeah,
The
so
river,
it's
okay.
just, so, Sandy, there's a trail that goes out to a covered bridge.
oh,
and
this is, okay, the
So
Brundage
this is just where
property.
we're meeting,
Okay.
yeah.
So where is it?
The Brundage Suchkowski's property.
Oh, okay. They have a covered bridge. Cool.
It's a little guy,
Yeah, but so cool.
yeah.
So.
Do we have like sign up for the children's walk? Do we know how many you're expecting?
Not yet. So with a Facebook event, people can respond as interested, and there's at least a few. And then,
Good.
it's on the town calendar on the website, and also went out in the newsletter, so. We won't have any insight to those, whether or not those
Be
people are
whatever
coming.
happens.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
We could be doing that on the next selectmen's meetings, taking the bids. It could also be on the following one, which would be the 3rd.
Okay.
We have the meeting on the 19th, then the 3rd. But I know Ed is getting kinda antsy by getting this done, cause there's only a lot to do.
Do you have a sense of, the select board will decide will it happen fairly quickly after that? I
It'll
guess if
happen-
it's Ed, right?
It'll happen at that meeting, it will be picked.
No, but I mean, will they be available to do the work right away? I guess if it's Ed and he's
Yeah.
anxious,
You'd have to talk to Ed, if, or whoever gets the bid, I can't say Ed well.
well, okay, Andrew's asked a good question. How do you wanna handle the scheduling of a cleanup day?
So
Should we just table it till the next?
yeah, that's what I would.
It's a good idea, I like the idea.
Yeah.
Can I,
Let me see.
this is relevant, and I wanted to mention it. Last year, we spoke about putting in a small garden in front of the library, and at that point, $50 was allocated for any supplies that would be needed, but that was last year.
Right.
It didn't happen for a lot of reasons, but I've been in conversation with Gretchen Renee, who is, more than willing to provide, soil additives like llama poo, basically,
Okay,
and also help me to put in a garden. This is the proposal, just in the corner there by the ramp, to soften that. My thought is that $50 was approved last year. It's not in this year's budget. I think we would like to do it entirely with donation, and if there's anything we need, for example, plug holes in the garden so that the rainwater coming out of the gutter will actually water the garden,
yeah.
I will commit myself to covering that.
Or someone else, you just put the need
Yeah,
out.
but
Put the
in
need
any
out.
case, I wanted the trustees to know that this has been picked up again, and she and I, now if we get the garden club going, would be some folks who would want to join us for that. But we will use divided perennials from members' gardens to
Right.
fill it.
Right.
I think it would be really nice
I
to
like
have
the
that.
idea.
Would really soften the look of that ramp to have a garden.
Yeah.
So, is everybody still cool with that? I know the
We're
decision
cool.
was made
We're
and
cool
it was
with
in the
that.
minutes last
We're
year,
cool.
but
We're
it just
cool.
sort of fell off.
No, I think it's
The
good, well,
agenda.
you ran into the problem of how to keep it watered.
Well, that Gretchen's absolutely clear how to do it.
Okay.
And she explained it to me, it makes good sense. So,
Terrific. Do you have an idea when you're gonna do it?
we'll probably do it within the next month and a half, while the ground is still easy to work.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind helping, that's why I'm asking.
Okay, great.
And then so lastly, I have Susan and I are working on a grant for the New Hampshire, or from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. It's a technology grant to replace the laptops and PC, maybe some other things.
Which would facilitate our getting a new operating system, which we
Yeah.
really need.
And then to kind of go hand in hand with that, it was really serendipitous. A patron came in, she's a Grafton resident and a registered teacher, and she offered to have a coding programming for 10 and up, so that would go hand in hand with our grant helping us.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really excited.
I should sign up.
So there's just an update on staff hours and the director account attached there.
Can I ask you a question, Katie, about books? How do we buy bird-bound books?
Mostly on Amazon.
And the funding for that? I mean, how do you, we have these trust funds that we can take money from that are dedicated for books.
Yeah.
So I personally would like to use that money to buy books, not other money,
Yeah.
right? So when you buy books, do you buy them like in a once a 6 months or once a year or?
I
Just all
usually
along?
do a big cart full every month, like around $100 every month, just to see what's new and popular and what I think people would be interested in.
Okay, so if we thought about $100 a month, we would transfer in some more money into your account, even though you don't really need it at the moment.
Yeah, I'm
for a bit, except this money you can spend anything on, and that money is just for books.
Gotcha.
See what I mean? So
So
if
we
we,
need separate accounting for
well,
restricted.
at least inside of this,
Okay,
so you know what you spent on books, and we should provide the funds for that.
alright,
And we, I guess we could do it after the fact, right? Make an order, it's a total of whatever, X. You inform the treasurer, she informs us, we vote to transfer the money.
Into her checking account.
And that doesn't slow you down, you just keep buying and just tell us how much,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Anything else for, Caitlin? Anything more from Caitlin? You have more?
I have one question. What do you consider a person using the library? Do they actually have to use it, or do they just walk in, ask for directions, and walk out? Do you consider that a use?
So we count people as they come in, if they're not staff or someone that's just coming in, we know they're coming in to volunteer. We don't necessarily erase a check mark if we saw someone walk out without checking out a book, or, I mean, there's also, we've had the library like as a meeting space too, so I mean, sometimes people come in to just meet the neighbor. I think that this is valid,
Well, they're coming here to use this facility,
yeah,
right? Or the service in this facility, so a meeting space to me is still a service in this, do you disagree with that?
No.
Anybody
I
disagree
would
with
think
that?
so.
No, I was just wondering if they came in and said, hey, how do I get to this area? You give them directions, they walk out, you don't count them as.
Well, in that case, probably not, if it was just a quick thing and
In and out,
I know,
yeah.
yeah, no,
There was a time when
Yeah.
everyone was counted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking,
No,
has
We've,
changed.
we've taken that away, right? That doesn't happen.
yeah, and I think,
We have a more accurate
yes.
number of who's actually using the library.
Yeah, and that was important to me, and I think you can see a difference, roughly the amount of, shifts per year, you know what I mean? So, yeah,
of course, do you count, for example, attendance at book club, which occurs here, or at Fiber Arts Club, in your visits?
I mean, I don't count it as a patron visit, I count it just as a club attendance.
They're separately identified.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah,
wondering
it could,
if they were double counted, but those
No.
are separate categories.
yeah,
So if we wanted to know how many visits of any kind, we would just add those numbers.
yeah, yep,
That's good.
yep.
So
I
there's
think-
no inflation in your numbers.
Yeah.
And that's important to me,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Well, it was important to both of you when we were, I mean, a year ago when you were first starting.
yes.
Yeah,
To how to make sure we really know what the customer activity is.
yeah,
Because otherwise you're fooling yourself,
right,
right?
right.
Any more for Caitlin? Anything more for you?
I
Okay,
just wanted to say that Caitlin's support of all the new programming is exactly aligned with the strategic plan, and we are on target
Yeah,
um,
so,
for implementing the programming strategic priority. And I just kudos to Kate for making that happen, because it's a lot of work
It
in
is
very
work.
few hours.
yeah, it is work. Okay, moving along, treasurer's report.
Okay, so this will need to be a group endeavor. I got materials from Karen. I passed out the budget versus actual. I note the date on it is March 22nd, so it's not through all of March. And that the percentage of the budget spent doesn't reflect a quarter, but George made the point, which I think we need to hold in mind, that because we pay in arrears our biggest expense, which is staff, the percentage is never going to align to what you might expect. So since we're through 25% of the year, you would expect 25% of salaries to be paid, but that won't be the case because you pay for January and February, for February and March, and I just thought that should get on the record for you.
I think
After you
that's
mentioned it.
important to know, because when you look at this, it's misleading.
And I also note that the only expenses that we see on this budget versus actual are utilities, wages, phone, fax, Wi-Fi, and heating fuel. So there's nothing of any other expense there, which also would help explain the variance. If one would expect 25% of the budget to be spent, that's why it's not, but those bills are coming.
Well, and you can't look at the total,
No,
right? Because some of the money is never gonna be here, they're on a different set of books,
right,
right?
which is part of the problem
Part
of
of the
using this as
confusion.
a representation of what we spent and how well we're doing against our budget.
Right.
So, okay, so there's that.
Could
I
I just
have
comment?
go
Susan,
ahead.
Susan, let me just comment. So wages run about $900 a month. So the real actual cost for labor is close to $3,000, not two,
Right,
which radically changes the percentage.
exactly, because that is clearly, that's the lion's share of our budget,
It is.
is wages.
And the trap is if you don't know that, you might think you've got more money available and you get to December where the catch-up happens and then you get charged for 2 months all of a sudden.
Right,
So
so
it's
that
not-
was really important when you pointed that out, because I didn't know. So I also have a Mascoma Bank statement dated 3/31, saying in one of the checking accounts there's 713, and the other there's 733. I don't know which is which, based on this report.
733 is the director's.
Okay. And of course, the other accounts are basically the same as before. And then I have clipped here some invoices to be signed. It's almost entirely books, a roll of tape on the top, and that's it.
Porta potty, no invoice?
So he sent it to me just like an hour before the meeting, so I could print it.
Okay, so yeah, because our friend Tom is waiting for an invoice.
No, we all are.
And just so you know,
So we
there's a
pay
price change with no communication,
Mhm.
but we have it on our bill. Whatever.
Well, when do they need it by?
Well,
When's the bill due?
yeah, you could ask, it's been accumulating since January, it can't be urgent.
Yeah, I had to have them for it. It doesn't give me a date.
Who pumps it?
JVC.
It's the same ones that Ed uses.
Well, okay. Because I would like the opportunity to call him and discuss this because he says price increase effective April, but then all the previous ones are increased.
Could you print that?
So, yeah.
Well, then we can't,
Print that for me.
Yeah.
So I have a
so
copy of that.
we, just so the select board knows, we're not gonna forward that yet, because there's a big question here.
Yeah, I just want a copy of it and see.
Yeah, but then you'll know why, right? You know it. Okay, so attached, Andrew, attached we have,
If anything, you give it to Susie, can contact them and see what,
I understand how we do that.
ship the guards out, drop on.
We probably just do it all at the end and say, well,
yeah,
Okay, but you can
what's
call
today?
Yeah.
4/14. Now, our practice is to sign every page, is that right? So I'm gonna do that,
Also, I need to sign for,
yeah.
Wait a second.
Yeah. This is what.
just pass it to you.
Why are we doing a copy? Here,
What rental, that's your guys', not theirs.
Yeah, so he says NA here, so that's not actually, but what we had agreed upon was 28 in the summer, 56 during the winter, because of the additional cleanings. Or, sorry, additional chemicals. And that's not it.
you know, I forgot to do
Do you want me to write
something.
it down? Or no, if Ed
Which
was on the
is-
same.
Yeah, it uses the same people.
Sort of important.
Ed says he doesn't even do the winter mixed with his, no? Cause he told me he pumps in the spring,
Yeah.
before 4th of July and after 4th of July. And then at the end of the season, nobody does 4 pumpkins.
So, ours definitely gets utilized and it's,
Yeah, it just does, they're,
okay.
What?
I don't know. Huh.
So I don't know why we need a vote to approve invoices if you're signing.
Do you wanna sign these two?
I don't see the point.
Okay, great.
We have to think that out. Why are we doing that? And where do these go now? Do they go, who?
I will give them back again.
Well.
I mean, I don't really care about
yeah,
signing them,
yeah.
it's nice to see what books we're buying, I mean, I'm happy to look through that.
Okay.
Yeah, but for this process, okay, so we're nearing the end of the financial report. And I want to move that we approve the donations of 70 books, 3 DVDs, 2 puzzles, a large trash bin, and book display easels.
I'll second.
Okay, so GC moves. AC seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's unanimous. I'm going to now insert something that I left off the agenda. The town has an auditor. The audit firm is going to also cover the library. And we have a questionnaire. And I'm not answering for the trustees. We're going to all answer together. So here are the questions. Do you have any knowledge of any fraud or suspicion of fraud affecting your entity?
I shouldn't laugh, no.
No, you shouldn't laugh, but really? No, right? We're all in agreement, no. Are you aware of any allegations of fraud or suspected fraud affecting your entity? And I'm gonna say no to that. No. We're all in agreement, right? I'm not answering for 3 of us.
I agree.
How often do the trustees meet and are formal minutes being taken and approved? And the answer is yes. Monthly. Including minute approval. Of previous month. Do the trustees perform a periodic review of financial information? Yes. To me, we do it at each monthly meeting. Yes, you all agree?
Yes.
Briefly describe how the trustees stay informed of the latest changes in the laws and regulations pertaining to their duties and responsibilities. That's a good one.
I'd say the Library Trustee Association newsletters.
Oh, of which there is. Thank you for reminding me. Just came in for you guys.
Oh, good.
I get
Just
them
like
at my house.
Yeah, mine comes to my house. Do you get one, Susan? Then you should take this. And I wonder, does Karen, how do we get that? Did you sign up? Does the
Not yet.
library?
No, I should have last.
But will you please then sign them up? Okay, so what's that called? Quarterly, it's a quarterly,
NHLTA.
That's right.
newsletter.
Newsletter of the NHLTA.
Newsletter. Please describe below the process the trustees use in approving expenditures prior to the library treasurer dispersing funds. We review all invoices at our monthly meeting, right? We review every invoice at our monthly meeting. How has your role as trustees changed since the worldwide pandemic was declared due to COVID-19 related to the following? Holding meetings, I think we had no meetings for 2 months, and then we moved to a larger venue for distancing. Is that
Yeah,
right?
for what tier, this is, calendar year 20,
This is 21. So in 21 that wasn't the case, right? We were there, and then we moved back. There were no meetings canceled in 21. Is that right? It was 20. I think it was 20. Yeah, it was 20, because it was right after I got elected.
okay.
Then
Yeah,
there weren't
yeah.
any meetings.
Yep.
So we're gonna say only meeting venue based distancing needs. Approval disbursements, no change, right?
No change.
Making financial decisions, to me, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
No change,
No
right?
change.
We all agree?
We moved to cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Do you know that stuff? I don't understand it.
know.
I don't understand what people are buying. Thin air.
Why are you
I-
looking
I-
at
I
us?
just-
It came up at LBS, didn't it?
It did.
We thought that's what we should.
Okay, so I'm signing on behalf of
It's
the
a raffle.
trustees. Then each of you, if you don't mind, will print your name and contact information on this before you leave.
That should be Karen, not me,
It should be Karen,
yeah.
22. But I'll do me. And you can do you. And guess what? I'm turning it into Sue Smith. So Susan, Karen, is ready to meet with the, auditors whenever they choose, just so we all know. And that form I'll give back to Sue. Are you going to see Sue tomorrow? No.
No.
No, oh, Friday. Is she working tomorrow?
Only till noon.
Okay, so I'll get that down to her tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, moving along, other business. There are 2 training opportunities. We've talked about one, the library, again, this library association meeting. There's a meeting on May 10th, is it? May 10th. I won't be here. There, a couple of people are interested. Are you
I
interested?
think I have to work. I
Karen
think Karen
is.
and
Karen
Yeah.
is.
Well, I think Karen had said like she would like to go because she was assuming it was free and it's not free. So, and that was, if we could go, it would be really nice to go, but where do we get the funds from? Is that part of like, professional development,
I
Yeah,
think
or is
so.
that?
it is.
Definitely.
Okay, yeah,
It's, yeah, we have a budget line, we're paying for it.
okay.
That is, the trustees are paying for it.
It was, yep, May 10th, registration deadline is on the 22nd of this month. I'm assuming we're members, right? Or no?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Isn't that, don't the, no, love is something different.
Yeah, that's just a local librarian for a while,
Right.
but,
We don't know. I mean, usually dues for those kinds of things are not nominal, so I think we would
Yeah,
know
I
if
don't-
we're members.
I just offhand don't remember.
well, so it's $50 for members and $75 for non-members, but like so many of the topics are like super relevant to us.
It's a good list of topics. I won't be here, so I can't go. Then in June, there is another, which I wrote down on the other version of our agenda. And I can't find it quickly. And that's in June. That I have to send it to you guys, because I just don't know where that notice went. So I have to search. Nuts. Oh, so I'll be sending you another email message about the June opportunity for some training. The grant proposal Caitlin's talked about, do you wanna talk more about it? No? No. So let's go, cleanup day. You're on, Andrew.
I think it's kind of related to what Kate had.
Oh, that's the cleanup day.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Okay,
Um,
alright.
I mean, there are other tasks outside of lawn maintenance, you know, like maybe painting some of the windowsills.
Right.
I am lit paint certified. I mean, we could tackle the,
Oh,
You are?
yeah,
yay!
yeah.
Cool.
I strip old windows for a living, so, well, not
Have
for a
to
living,
be.
but for a
The
side
hobby.
hustle, yeah.
So what, are you gonna work on that?
No, I can do,
What
yeah.
how do you remove it?
I mean, with this one, we'd probably just wire brush off the loose stuff and then we'd encapsulate the remaining
With
paint
With the paint?
yeah, with a primer and a paint.
Good. Wow. I can help the painting, I guess. I can't do the removal.
Great.
Is that right?
It's pretty small. It shouldn't take that.
No. Okay. You ready for facility?
Well,
Plan it.
but first, just to clarify where things are with the sign. So I was at the last Vogel meeting.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's okay.
Vogel.
Right, I was at the last Vogel meeting, and Vogel is still committed to covering the cost of the sign, just called for in our approved strategic plan. So they've gotten quotes, and the thought is to bring, I expected someone to be here, bring to the trustees, ideas for what the content should be, but the trustees should decide what information should be on the
Correct.
sign. And then, Vogel would be happy to work with some folks to draft a couple of designs based on the information
Okay.
that the trustees decide they want on the sign,
Okay.
and bring those possibilities to the trustees, for the trustees to review and comment on. So the whole role of Vogel is A, pay for it, B, do legwork, but all the
Yeah.
decision-making belongs to the trustees.
All right.
So the thought right now, I can tell you where we're at right now, is that, we wanted to have the name of the library, something to the order of around the corner, so people know that it's not there, the phone number, and then to be able to have at the bottom, signs that we can exchange, saying things like book club this Tuesday at 7,
Oh, right.
whatever. Those would be sort of homemade things to add on. And the thinking is that by doing that, when signs change, people take notice. If
Yeah.
it's the same all the time, it becomes invisible.
Yeah.
But if it says, and also people driving, what, Grafton has an astronomy club? What, Grafton is doing this and that? So it'd be good, for the library and I think for the town as well. But no commitments have been made, no decisions have been made, and that's where things stand right now. So there's no rush on this, we'd like to get it done in due time, but
So
be
this sounds
deliberate
good,
about it.
right? It's moving forward. Somewhere in this process, we have to have the select board part of it, right? Because we're putting a sign on that lot.
yeah,
And I particularly think it's important to have their involvement. So let's think, we don't have to do it now, but we
Yeah.
should think about when Leaf is here, Leaf hears whatever he hears here. Maybe there's another step, maybe you should tell us what you think the next step should be for getting the select board involved with
I
this.
do have an option. I have talked to Tom and he brought up the subject of maybe going half with the town and replacing the sign that's there now with the stickers and just going to a rolling sign, rolling electronic sign,
like what they have at the school.
because at a school
Wow,
Wow,
that's
yeah.
that's a
where
big-
you could just
I like
go on your
that.
phone, change what you wanted to say. The trustees of the library would have control of it. The selectmen would have control of it. You could do two different signs, so one could be the library, one could be the selectmen.
Oh,
That's a new thought.
But I would have to take it to Tom and Cindy, see if they would be okay with half of the cost of the sign, we need to find the price of,
And where we should put it, and what
Because
the
if we-
cost is.
if we put it where that sign is now, you guys don't worry about state zoning or being too close to,
They're mostly
Yes, they-
concerned at intersections, I think, because of visibility,
Right,
but it's also in, it's
Yes.
also in there right away.
exactly.
The state does not like.
so you've been involved with Fogo, maybe you have some with the sign, what do you think that their reaction would be to that?
I have to admit, oh, sorry.
No, let me say that Vogel is the facilitator here. What matters is what the trustees think
Okay,
about the sign. Vogel's not dictating anything about this sign, they're just being our helper.
but
That's my
they have
understanding.
invested they're investing a lot of time in it.
Oh,
Yes?
Just made a few calls, what would this
Okay.
type of sign cost,
Cool.
what would that type of, I wouldn't feel constrained by anything that's happened thus far. I
Okay,
think
so I-
usually those signs that have, what's happening this week,
Yeah.
they're often under a static sign.
Yes,
And I think this is a, fabulous idea, but I would be concerned about having too much information on one changing sign, and it would need to be the same on both sides, because people come at the sign from different places.
but
So
the
I think it
notion
could
is
be
good.
great, I haven't really thought through how it would
Well, so-
work, but those
so
are my
let's go
initial
with that.
thoughts.
why don't you approach that, and let's see what comes that way. I mean, if they've done, sounds like somebody's done some research to find out about these digital,
And,
Tom just
you
told
know,
me he hates that sign.
he did what?
He hates that sign.
So do
Tom
I.
hates that sign
The
so
one,
much.
What,
you
the
put the
one
letters.
Cause he
where-
has to go there and
Well,
change
of
the
Yeah,
course.
it's terrible.
And
Right there.
Cindy's really glad it's not hers to do.
I was already told that it's probably gonna be my job.
So,
God, no.
so I don't wanna say that Vogel has no interest in what this sign is, and it's not a blank check they're talking about, pay for the sign, so we have to keep the conversation going.
Exactly, so to me, this is just more information at the moment. What would that
But
sign
well,
be
Andrew,
like?
you had some thoughts about it.
I feel like when Danbury Community Center upgraded their sign to the digital one, I don't pay attention to it as much.
I don't even know where it is. I don't even see it, where is it?
Right at
Across from
the,
the store.
right at High Street or at the community center.
At the community center, I never look up that.
Yeah. When I get gas, I
Yeah,
guess I
they're
look
off
at
the
it.
road.
Yeah, it's off the main.
And the problem with the high school one is that it changes too fast. Like you can't always, at least with a static sign like the one that we hate,
Yeah, it doesn't.
you have the option to maybe like see the whole thing at once.
Exactly,
Where in the digital one, you
Right.
have to.
And if there's two lines and they're both changing,
and you're driving,
yeah, and you're driving, we have to think about it. But it's worth looking into, don't you think? It's an option. I like your notion of the readability.
definitely. Well, another thought that Vogel had is that people care about how things look, and consider conversations about the cemetery signs,
Yeah.
and office signs.
Right.
It needs to be in keeping
Right.
with those signs, and we don't want visual clutter along Route 4. I want the aesthetics of
Well,
the
we do.
field to be good, so.
That was my feeling too, like it would be so nice to like be, rolled into the town sign and on the same sort of face, but yeah, I like wooden signs, like, they're cute and quaint.
Okay, so what are we doing? Are we agreeing to, we get feedback from the select board on what that might look like?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say at least poll your, the other selectmen and see what they're interested in. If we're just in the data collection space,
That's what it sounds like. There's nothing presented.
I just conveying what was discussed at the last meeting.
You keep talking about clutter though, cause you run that corner, you got your now sign, you got the TARDIS, you got the Sarah Barney sign, and now you're gonna add another library sign. It's gonna be cluttered
Well,
right on that
my-
corner.
I think the thought was to hang it on a frame that's already there, so it's not an additional structure. That's the thought right now.
And my problem with that is it's parallel with the road.
You can't see it from.
So
the
you're
hill.
driving like this and you have to look at it.
it's perpendicular to the road.
It's perpendicular to the
Yes.
road? Really?
Yes, and
Yeah, it
two-sided,
God, I never read it.
but you're right, I noticed
It
that when I
doesn't
drive by,
draw my
those
eye.
are separate things,
Sorry.
so.
The ceremony catches my sign catches my eye faster than anything does.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's bold. It's right out there. It's perpendicular. I have to look at that. Sorry. I just don't see the sign as it sits today. I don't
well,
see it.
usually there's nothing hanging
There's
from it.
nothing.
They only have those big, you notice when it says Grafton Gargantuan Garlic Gathering,
Yeah, I see
right?
that. Yeah.
Right, but see, mostly that frame is empty,
Just
that's
empty.
why you're not thinking
Oh,
of
okay.
it.
Then that must be.
It's
why.
only if, there's the Christmas fair, the garlic gathering, or townwide yard sale, then there's a big sign hanging in the frame,
Right.
and I'm sure you see that,
I do see that. I just don't remember.
yeah,
Okay,
so,
very good.
okay,
Now shall we go to
yes,
facility discussion?
and, I think we should think of this as just a launch of our discussion, it being 7:15, but, as we
Sorry,
know,
I'm trying to
one of
get
our
this.
strategic priorities in our strategic plan is to identify and address facility issues that pose barriers to pursuing the library's mission and vision. I think it's worth reminding ourselves, our mission is to advance lifelong learning and community spirit by providing free access to literature, media, and programming that reflect local needs and interests. The vision is that by 2026, the Grafton Public Library will be a place where all members of our community feel welcome and well-served by resources, programs, and facilities that suit local needs and interests. So in the implementation plan, it calls for us, beginning this quarter, to review the needs associated with the planned programming and services, to review the work that's been done thus far around facility needs of the library, because a ton of work in assembling this timeline, a ton of work has happened way before I moved to town, to think about what the facility needs are. And then our charge, according to the plan, is to come up with short and long-term solutions. And they have to, and with all the necessary approvals and input that we would need. So I thought, the first thing to do would be to review what's happened thus far, because there was a lot, so I produced this memo. And then also, I've been keeping a spreadsheet with all of the programming and services that are called for in the plan and that we're providing, what our current facilities are, how they meet the needs of that programming, and what the limits are. And not just considering this building, but also Town Hall, which is one of our facilities we use, the snack shack. So how do we align what we've planned with our facilities? Where are the problems? How can we address them? So that's the frame for where we're going. So I distributed this draft facility planning timeline before this meeting, and wondered if people had a chance to read it, and what were your impressions in reading it? What stood out to you? Before I launch into what struck me as I was going through these materials.
You looking for it?
No, I've got one. Yeah.
And I also want to point out that this says draft, and it says it'll be updated and corrected. I don't want anybody to think that these are tablets from
I
Sinai,
don't.
because I'm
I've
sure
got
I
it
got
on my
some things
computer,
wrong.
so
Well, you do. I have it on my computer. I don't have it with me. So do we have another need? Do you need one?
No, I got one on my phone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so-
but what struck me is that back in 2014, the warrant article associated with appropriating the $25,000 for the Library Capital Reserve Fund, the language was also included to appoint the library trustees as agents to expend for the purposes of developing a long-term plan which will ultimately address the Labor Department's findings. And then the trustee chair at the time was really committed, Jim Griffin, to creating a long-term plan, and laid out the problems that we're still experiencing. The lack of a bathroom, the lack of parking, space limits, accessibility barriers, some of which have been addressed, and other issues that were cited. So that's been, 8 years now. And a lot of activity and energy went into planning, and thinking about various options for a long-term, I'm considering a long-term solution to these issues. Either moving this building or a new facility. The barn library proposal came out of all that work as the least expensive long-term solution at the time. But now I wouldn't say we're back to square one, because all this work has been done and can be referenced, but we definitely don't have the consensus we need to move forward with a large capital project, is my take from reading this.
I agree with that.
And that, this letter that was received, you may have questions about the tone of the letter, but the letter that the attorney drafted on behalf of the select board, those issues are still present and would need to be addressed. Which doesn't mean we can't move forward, but that's where we stand right now.
The letter identifies a clear process, which business people would just take for granted, but it's written down. There's a lot of work still to be done. But to do the work and not have a consensus behind it seems futile to me.
Well, when I went back to that grid for what we approved, our strategic planning process is what we intended to do, and what facility needs we have. It's this long spreadsheet, and then I realized that's way too much detail. It really gets down to the basics, the issues that Jim Griffin identified, plus one other that really has only become real clear over the last couple of years, which is this building can't accommodate group activity and quiet use of the library. In fact, it doesn't even afford privacy for people who want to consult with the librarian about some information that they want to have. So that isn't on the 2014 list.
Yeah.
And also, we noted with one of our activities, the initial meeting of the Fiber Arts Club, it was too big for the building. If you have more than 10 people gathered for a meeting, it becomes a problem.
Right.
It's just, and because we have determined when we were addressing the issue of optimizing hours and making the most of what we have, that we really shouldn't have groups during operating hours, which limits when you can schedule groups. And also means people coming to groups can't also check out a book at the same time. And all of those things are things we can live with, and the question is, do we want to live with them? And how do they limit our ability to pursue our mission? So those are my initial thoughts. Oh, one other initial thought. I'd love to have a real bathroom, and the work that I documented here suggests that it was determined that the property here wouldn't be sufficient for a septic system. I don't know if that's true, so let's not argue that. That's what I read.
I read
But
that.
as much as I love an indoor toilet, I'm thinking the whole toilet issue is big. I mean, people want to stop the discussion at book club because I really gotta go to the bathroom. Saying I don't want to go outside, and it's not just that it's a porta potty; it's that it's a terrible porta potty. It's disgusting, even if it gets clean because it's old. So my thought is maybe a short-term, not solution, but way to address some of these problems. Have we even thought of get a new porta potty so that it's better? So I just throw that out there. It's only to say that I personally would love to see a new community center library. The road to there is complicated. I hope we as a town can do it, but I'm cognizant of how much work would need to happen. But in the meantime, how do we do better with what we have? And I don't want people coming to meetings and having to leave because
Can I make a comment before I lose my whole train of thought?
I'll be quiet now.
No, it's fine. If I don't say it now, I'll forget about it. So I've been selectman since March 8th. I've actually looked into getting you guys a bathroom. You can't do a septic here.
So that is true.
There's not enough room.
That's what I read.
I've talked to Merle Kenyon and see if we could tap into Becca's septic, and Merle said that would be possible. Only problem is if Becca ever sold her house,
Oh,
us going to stuff would be an issue.
Yeah.
But what we could do is a cistern. It's just a pumpable tank. You can get an 1,800 gallon tank for about $3,500. It would be buried. You could put a concrete slab on top of it, where there'd be a trap door to access it. And we would end up having to either knock a hole in a wall in the back because we can't touch the front because of a historical building. You can't access the front, so we had to put a bathroom in somewhere in the back and doing a I don't know if it's a spike or I can't remember the name of it, into the ground like they're going to do the rec field to get you guys water. But the concrete slab could be, you could do any function out there, be like a porch, a patio. You could put picnic tables
on top
out
of
there, on top of it, you could do whatever you want on top of it. And every year, just pull the top, it gets pumped.
So what do we get as a company that pumps septic tanks?
Rouse,
They would pump it out.
J&B, the one you use for fertilizer would pump it.
Oh, okay.
It's 26 cents a gallon.
That doesn't help me any help. How many gallons?
So, you know,
For 1,800 gallons.
1,800.
1,000 gallons is $260.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And it wouldn't be. There's not that much usage.
No, and put it in. Technically, we could do like we did with the fire station. We have the road crew come with a backhoe, dig the hole, and we'd probably get other people to help put a bathroom in.
That sounds good to me. I don't know
it's
about.
something to consider. It's
is really
it's a
something.
pressing issue
Then
for
if-
sure. It's one of many issues.
Because
But
I've
that's a
thought
big
about
one.
it.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
If you guys end up doing putting building down other property, this is all set. Already has a bathroom. To maybe move the police department out of there into here.
I was thinking that, Leaf, no
Yeah.
matter
Someone
who
could
uses
move out
this
of there
building,
into
having
here.
a bathroom
Right.
would be a good thing. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, that's,
Or even it's just storage for all the files in that building. Take some of the pressure off the foundation and the stringers and everything.
yeah.
This is kind of a bigger conversation, but knowing that there are several lots on here that are less than half an acre, or I mean, septic and water must be an issue for a lot of houses. There must be a lot of non-sanctioned or kind of grandfathered systems,
Yeah.
right?
Grandfathered in.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to think about if there were ever kind of a larger facilities grant or something through like Northern Borders, Regional Commission or something to create kind of a village-wide septic system, which is what other towns like Tamworth have done.
That's interesting.
And then so you can kind of tap in, a couple places tap into it.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
I know Russell said you could possibly put a septic in here. Remember the store put a septic in right behind the store. And they only have 30 feet
Yeah.
from the store to the road. They put a septic in there.
It's pretty creatively designed. I mean, it like
Yeah.
snakes around the whole back
It's
of the
very
building.
creative.
Yeah.
But I think maybe a cistern would probably be the better and cheaper way to go.
What about smell?
There is no
I was
smell.
thinking-
It's a sealed tank.
Huh?
It's a sealed tank.
Let's
So,
see.
Leaf, what I really like about
They
this
use them
direction,
themselves.
even though it's only one issue, it's an option that didn't come up in the previous conversations. And I have a feeling that, going over this again and thinking, well, what more do we know now can help move the conversation forward rather than staying stuck
Right.
in where the
So
conversation
this
has
is terrific. I mean, what do we do to go forward? I guess more data.
more information.
Cost, all of that business, because we're gonna have to fund it somehow.
I already priced the tanks. Well, tank, a single. But they use the cisterns down south mostly, where it's all sand. There's no drainage. And and that's what they do, they put concrete over the top of it, they use park cars on top of it, and they just pull the top and, oh,
One of three of us is pretty interested in getting more information there. 2 of 3, 3 of 3,
How
I
did you
think
say
we're all
we get
interested in
water?
more information.
I can't remember, if it's called a spike, or, oh my god, I've been told this so many times, I just can't remember. So they take a long pole, and they just drive it in the ground, until they hit water. You're gonna hit water here.
Right.
They hit water, I think, 5 feet down on the rec field.
Yeah, the floodplain.
We're not that far off. You only gotta go down maybe, 10 feet, you look at water, it just pumps there.
So when we drive that pipe in, we gotta remember that during drought periods, water drops like a rock here. It's all sand, right? So the water table drops.